Coming up on Eye on Gauteng, Finance MEC Barbara Creecy presents the annual budget. International Women's Day highlights the important role women play in driving the economy. And the Gauteng Province commemorates Human Rights Day by paying tribute to those who died for freedom.
Gauteng remains the biggest contributor to the South African economy, with the province currently contributing 35% to the national gross domestic product. Our provincial economy continues to grow at above national levels. Overall economic growth for 2016 is predicted at 1%. The finance, real estate and business sectors grew at double the rate of the provincial economy as a whole at 2.2%. In 2017, we expect the provincial economy to grow at 1.8% and at 2.3% in 2018.
Earlier this month, Finance MEC Barbara Creecy presented Gauteng's 108 billion rand budget for the 2017-2018 financial year. It has been 2 years since the launch of the provincial government's radical program to transform, modernize and re-industrialize the Gauteng city region. The MEC highlighted the targets that have been met or exceeded so far.
Over the past 2.5 years, we have created 317,000 net jobs, attracted 66 billion rand in foreign direct investment into the province, received 41% of all foreign tourists, ensuring that we generate the highest number of bed nights and tourism-related revenue in the country, ensured that 7 out of every 10 learners who start grade 1 in a Gauteng school pass matric, and placed 350,000 young people through the Tsepo 500,000 program into formal jobs, entrepreneurship, training and skills development or transitional employment. It's important at this point, honourable members, to reflect on the improvements we have made over the past 2.5 years in terms of the management of public sector finances in Gauteng. The 2015-16 audit outcomes were the best the province has achieved in the past 10 years, with all departments and entities achieving unqualified audit outcomes and 60% achieving clean audit status, with no matters of emphasis. Equally pleasing are the municipal audit outcomes for the same financial year, where all municipalities and entities also received unqualified audits for the first time. This was achieved through a sustained partnership between provincial and municipal government to turn around the financial outcomes, particularly in Western Area and Randfontein. The Debt Management Committee within Treasury has ensured that debt to municipalities is paid on time, and where there are disputes, to resolve those soon. In the last 2 years, we have ensured that over 2 billion rand is paid to our municipalities for rates and for services. We are committed to ensuring we do not owe our municipalities. We are setting aside a budget of 2.4 billion over the 2017 medium term, which will comprehensively address the outstanding backlog on property rates and make sure that we are up to date going forward.
Consistent with previous budgets, the key spend will remain in health and education, with health receiving 40.2 billion rand and education 40.8 billion rand. Following the Life Esidimeni tragedy, where at least 100 psychiatric patients died after being moved to various unlicensed non-governmental organizations, an extra 195 million rand has been allocated to mental health care. This after cutting 414 million rand from internal spend.
Over the past 2.5 years, all provincial governments, departments, have been guided by National Treasury circulars to cut costs on non-core expenses. By non-core expenses, we mean those expenses which are primarily targeted at government itself, rather than spending targeted at our citizens. Examples include catering, corporate branding, accommodation, and internal travel. These circulars were tabled in the Executive Council and formed the basis for our own provincial guidelines, which were adopted by the Executive Council in 2015 and included measures to ensure that personnel spending remained below 60% of the overall budget. It has never been provincial government policy to save costs by cutting back on services on our citizens. In fact, honourable members, every effort has been made to protect the budgets of health, education, and social development. A simple study of where additional resources have been allocated over the last 2.5 years will support this argument. We have saved 414 million by cutting back on catering, accommodation, corporate branding, and redirecting these resources to the core business of government, namely services to our citizens. Last year, we saved 386 million in fruitless and wasteful expenditure by reducing interest paid on overdue accounts. We are currently exploring further measures to contain costs in the following areas: telecommunications, as a result of the implementation of voice over IP, introducing common GPG-wide standards for the purchase, maintenance, and scrapping of ICT devices, and the implementation of the standard infrastructure procurement and delivery management system to enforce cost norms that have been agreed upon at sector level in all our infrastructure projects.
The Gauteng Provincial Government has committed to procuring 30% of its goods and services from previously disadvantaged or township communities. Particular attention will be paid to youth, the disabled, and women. Shortly after the budget announcement, the Women's Economic Summit was hosted as part of celebrating International Women's Day. The 3-day summit, amongst other things, focused on opening up opportunities for women and bringing them into the mainstream economy. We chatted to some of the women participating.
St. Clair started in March 2016. This was after I was retrenched from my previous job. I've always been a creative, but I've decided I'm not updating my CV. I'm going to try this entrepreneurship out, and this is where we are now, 2017.
The experience of losing her corporate job in human resources influenced Carol Visi to pursue her passion for fashion.
I started just trying out stuff that I enjoy wearing, and I would post on Facebook and Instagram, and people liked. So they would say, "How much is this?" And I was thinking, but I'm not selling it, and that's how this started. So it's just a breezy day today. I'm an off-shoulder kind of girl, so I love everything that shows off my shoulders. So that's where I started. So right now I specialize in maxi dresses. I do a little bit of clothing, but the most exciting part about all of this is that I'll be showcasing at the SA Fashion Week exhibitors end of the month. So clearly I have to make a bigger range, so I'm very excited about that. Having to start a business from scratch with your own money, that's the biggest challenge. But because it was something that I had decided that I wanted to do, I gave it my all. And for me to get to a point where I've just said I've bought my own machine, and there's other people involved in this project, it's not just myself. So I'm now paying others. They may not be like my employees, but they're suppliers that I use, which means that it's growing.
Understanding the pressures of unemployment, Carol aspires to empower other women.
I don't want to just do this myself. It would be great to empower others. There's women out there who would benefit from helping out. So right now, the people that are doing my stuff, it's an established company, but it would be great to have maybe ladies whom we can maybe buy machines for, who I can then uplift and ensure that they're the ones who do my stuff going forward.
The entrepreneurship journey is a long and challenging one, but Carol maintains that it's worth it.
I know that I'm doing this for myself. I'd like for this to grow bigger than what it is right now. I'm hoping that I'll be able to hand over this to one of my children. So I push myself every single day, knowing that I'm doing this for me and not helping somebody else grow their business, but I'm helping myself to grow my own business. Don't be scared. Sometimes we're scared of the unknown. You'd rather say, I've tried it, rather than procrastinating and saying that perhaps I should, because I think that's what I did for the longest time. So don't be scared. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people that are willing to help, but because we're not being brave enough to go out there, you're not even going to find out this information. I feel so far since I've started there's so much information that I've gained, and a lot of people that I've met through all these expos that I go to, where we exchange information, and there's a lot of learnings as well.
In her annual budget presentations to the Gauteng Provincial Legislature, Finance MEC Barbara Creecy reinforced government's commitment to creating jobs and empowering previously disadvantaged communities, including youth, women, and the disabled.
Our approach to public procurement has been an important instrument for this government to bring about greater economic inclusion and participation. Over the past 3 years, we have spent 46 billion procuring goods and services from 12,000 registered companies. 10,000 of these companies belong to historically disadvantaged individuals, including firms owned by Black entrepreneurs, women, youth, and the disabled. In all, over 42.8 billion has been spent on procurement from the historically disadvantaged. To date, provincial government has done business with 2,813 township enterprises to the value of 5 billion rand. Supplier development initiatives with First National Bank and the SA Supplier Diversity Council are assisting us to develop suppliers we can work with across all 5 development corridors. In his address in February, Premier Makura argued that the key question we must now begin to confront is how many of these businesses will be sustainable outside of government tenders. This is the question we must confront as we give content and character to radical economic transformation. In this regard, we welcome 2 regulatory changes to the preferential procurement policy that will take place from the 1st of April this year. The first is the introduction of compulsory 30% subcontracting for all contracts above 30 million rand. The second is the introduction of pre-qualification criteria based on broad-based Black economic empowerment levels of contribution, so that certain tenders can be aimed at procurement from designated groups. In our view, these reforms will allow us to do 3 things. Firstly, to bring township suppliers into joint ventures with our larger suppliers. Secondly, to encourage our existing Black-owned suppliers, large and small, to get involved in local manufacturing initiatives, to produce goods to sell on the domestic and foreign markets. And thirdly, to support cooperatives and social entrepreneurs to implement the Gauteng at Work program. In the course of this financial year, we will set targets for our provincial procurement spend on goods and services manufactured locally, especially in township communities. We believe this will allow us to make Premier Makura's vision of a second wave of empowerment a reality. One in which Black-owned businesses and township enterprises we are currently empowering help us to reindustrialize and modernize our provincial economy.
The Women's Economic Summit was held thereafter in an effort to expose opportunities for women and bring them into the mainstream economy. Dintswalo Cassandra Makubele is the founder and the National General Secretary of the South African Congress of Non-Profit Organizations. It is an umbrella body for non-profit organizations mandated to do advocacy, capacitate NPOs, and to lobby government on behalf of the sector. She works with 10,000 cooperatives in Gauteng, of which 2,500 are active in the production line. 500 cooperatives are in agriculture and are producing their own food.
It took us a long time to get support from the Gauteng government. It took us a while, I must confess. We still don't have funding for the farm. We sell a little bit and buy seeds. We sell a little bit, pay one another. We sell a little bit and save the profit. And it has taught us to say the gimme factor has to die. It has to die yesterday. And it's what we are teaching our women, that stand up, be bold for change, because it doesn't come easy. The support that we get from Gauteng government is tremendous in terms of policy, in terms of strategy, in terms of programs, in terms of project management. Gauteng government gives us officers, mentors, administrators, and facilitators that assist us in facilitating networks, facilitate other departments. Like here, Department of Agriculture bring the entire staff to come and teach us on how to produce our own food. The Department of Social Development, yes, they give us support financially, but that one is to enable us to communicate, is to enable us to get a diesel or transport to get point A to B, and it is to enable us to create space for mentorship, for development in governance. The first challenge that we are facing, it's consistency in marketing. It's consistency in production. It's very difficult when you don't have funding to produce in bulk. For instance, at Aikenhof United Farmers, we have 270 hectares of land, but we can only till 60 hectares. Firstly, we don't have enough water, we don't have enough tractors, we don't have a pack house. So immediately you harvest, you have to make sure you deliver. But that prompts us to make sure that our product, we call it from the farm to the table, because it doesn't go to the storage, it goes to the shelf, and it gets finished quicker than all the other goods. Then we get reputation. The other challenge is sustainability of cooperatives. It's quite a huge challenge, I must say. Our cooperatives are fluid, because remember, we are indigent communities that are coming from a bitter past. Our past has never been good. We are sometimes called a disadvantage. We are sometimes called the previous disadvantage, because we never had land, we never had finances. And when you go to the bank to ask for finance, they want security, we don't have security. They want surety, we don't have surety. They tell you that they can't give you more money, or they can't give you nothing. So we have to live by borrowing from the stokvels and making sure we save ourselves from stokvels. The other challenge that we have, it's women. We need to learn to support one another. We need to pool our strengths, and make sure that as we work together as women, if she plants spinach there, I must be able to go harvest, put it here. For instance, I don't have the cherry chilies, the yellow one, but one of my colleagues has it, and then he sold it to me. I don't have in my farm the green, the hot chili pepper Mexican, but I was able to go and ask a colleague to sell to me. So these are kind of things that we are teaching one another. So it's a disadvantage, because we need to be taught business skills. We need to be taught business management. We need to be taught how to package, how to transport, how to select, how to grade. Because for now we are using our own grading at our own way. And you find that it is quite amazing. Because people on their own, they are creative, but they're able to come up with the best. The other one is that some policies of government take long to be implemented, and it keeps us waiting. The supply chain as well has got lots of rules and lots of laws that will tell you A's and B's, and by the time you want to harvest or you want to deliver, your product has aged. It's no longer ready for the shelf. It has missed the shelf life. So those are kind of challenges.
On the 21st of March 1960, about 7,000 non-white protesters marched to the police station in Sharpeville, in the southern part of Gauteng. 69 people were shot dead while protesting against the country's past laws, which were used to control the movement of blacks, coloureds and Indians. Today, the 21st of March is celebrated as a public holiday in honor of human rights and to commemorate the Sharpeville massacre. The CNBC Africa team visited Sharpeville this Human Rights Day, where the fallen were remembered for their sacrifice.
I'm Abraham Fukeng, local here, one of the victims of Sharpeville massacre. The experience was bad. It came unexpectedly. We never expected that we'd be shot, because we were just here around the police station to hand ourselves for arrest. Since the past laws were so bad against us. There were laws regulating a black man in this country when we had no vote. You had no right to stay anywhere you like. You could not work where you like. We were just bound to be at one place. Then there was no freedom of movement. You were regulated to stay at one place, work at one place, under the white man's leadership. My advice to the youth of today is just like I can say, they must know where they come from so they can know where they are going. So history, as it repeats itself, then that is a message that we must be aware of what we are doing and where we come from. Then we can tell the story to the next generation following.
As the Gauteng Provincial Government, we saw it befitting to honor all the men and women who died on that day. But even the victims and the survivors of some of them who are actually still alive. So as the years grow and as democracy matures, that's when we now even call it Human Rights Day. And this year, as you can see, we are also joined by the Pan-Africanist Congress, because if all liberation movements were together in the 60s and fighting for a common cause, it makes no sense in the new democracy will want to go separate ways, all because others are in government, others are not necessarily in government. So this year, as we commemorate, we say we are commemorating it being united, but over and above, fighting all the scourge of racism and xenophobia that we see rearing its ugly head within our communities now. So we are working very closely with various stakeholders to ensure that as we continuously commemorate, we improve on how we do things. We acknowledge those that have played their role. We acknowledge the heroes and the heroines of the struggle, and even unsung and those that we may know. But also take into consideration that even today, it's International Anti-Racism Day. We say we must not look beyond color, but we are all Africans, we are all in the same continent. But what is most important is fighting the three challenges that we have, which is poverty, unemployment, and inequality. These are the common enemies within our people. We cannot be fighting amongst each other when we have a common enemy. So ours is to make sure that we improve on that and make sure that people really, as they deserve this day, they recognize the importance of it. But even generations to come, our young people must know the significance of this day and be patriotic even to the flag and to the constitution of the country.